Today we're going to do that deep dive into spray heads. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about spray heads, and here is an example of a spray head. You've probably seen these all over the place. Wouldn't be surprised if you have some of these in your yard. Well, where do we use spray heads? Typically spray heads are used for lawn areas, flower beds, gardens, and they have a throw typically, or distance that they'll throw water, usually about 15 feet max, although some manufacturers will go up to 18 feet. So if you're doing a larger area, you can put these in rows and do larger areas. But once you get above that, somewhere around that 25 to 30 feet, you're going to go to a rotor. So these are typically for smaller areas. Now, what does it look like on the inside of a sprinkler head or a spray head? Let's take a look at it. But honestly, let's start with the outside first. So here's a spray head. It has a flush cap in it, okay? Every manufacturer comes with a flush cap. This one does too. And what that is used for is when you're putting together your sprinkler system or changing out a head, occasionally some dirt or debris can get into your pipe, okay? If you're cutting a pipe, those little burrs can sometimes get into the pipe. Well, we don't want those clogging up our nozzles. So when you connect this and you have water to it, when you get all done, before you put on the nozzles, what you do is you flush the water out of this, leaving this orange cap on, and water is going to fly all over. It's crazy. And that's going to get all that dirt and debris. Once you're all done, then you can take this orange cap, lift it up here, pull it up, unscrew it, and you can put on one of these, which is a fixed nozzle for a spray, or one of these. And this is a rotary. Both of them have filters, okay? And again, the filter is just there to help in case any debris gets into the pipe. But for right now, I'm going to screw on this nozzle. And so we have a nozzle, okay? This is called the riser. So what happens on this sprinkler head is it has an inlet on the very bottom, okay? On a 12-inch sprinkler head, they're occasionally, or they have them on the side here too, and you can connect it there. Typically, the side inlet is for warm weather climates where they don't get freezing weather. The bottom is for freezing cold weather or cold weather climates. Reason for that is in the winter time or the fall, you get ready to do your irrigation blowout. The air comes down the pipe, okay, and it goes into your sprinkler head, and you want it to go from the bottom all the way to the top to get all this water out of here. If it's in the side, it's only going to get the water out of the top half, and it's going to leave it in the bottom, which can lead to freezing and breakage, and then you have to replace some heads in the springtime. We don't want to do that. But that's the outside of the head. Let's open it up and take a look at the inside now. Now, the inside, you just unscrew the cap, okay? And when we do that, you're going to see a spring. You're going to see the riser that we saw pop out of the head. And then we're going to see the top cap here. And then this white thing is called the wiper seal. There's a lot that goes into these heads to make them last long and be durable. So, like I was saying, you have the heads here. Okay. This came out of here. Water pushes it up. The water pushes this up, pushes the riser up and out of the ground. So typically, when you're installing this head, this would be flush with a driveway or a sidewalk or your grass or the soil. Let's say this will pop up in this instance 6 inches. And we do a 6-inch because most grass is about 4 inches tall, and you just want to make sure that you're shooting above whatever material you're trying to irrigate. keep in mind that you cannot shoot through certain things. You cannot shoot through large trees, spruce trees, rocks, decks, all that type of stuff. And so anytime you have like a landscape boulder or a rock as an example, you want to make sure that this pops out of the ground so you're shooting over that rock and you don't get the blockage of the water, because anything behind that rock is going to be dry, and sometimes we call that a shadow. So they make these heads in different sizes. They have 2-inch, 4-inch, 6-inch, and 12-inch. So what I typically do is for lawns, I will use 4-inch or 6-inch, depending on what the client's needs are. And then for anything like native grass or flowers or shrub beds, I'll do 12-inch. Okay. And there's a couple different types of these heads that you have to keep in mind. Okay. They come just basic. Okay. Basic. The water goes in the bottom, it shoots out the top. That's just a basic head. Okay. The next type of head looks exactly the same. You can't tell a difference, but it has a pressure regulator built into it. And pressure regulators are put in there to help conserve water. And you might understand, not quite understand, but let me explain. What happens is, if you've ever been around a bunch of sprinkler heads or spray heads and you see misting, the water's coming out of the spray head and there's like mist or a fog that goes up into the air, that's too much pressure. Okay. That pressure regulator keeps it at the optimal pressure. So for spray heads, that's typically 30 PSI. So anything above that and you're going to get misting, and that's water just gets put up into the air and it just, the wind takes it and it's gone. We want to get every drop of water possible from this head to the root zone of the plant that we're trying to irrigate. Okay. On the other side of this is low pressure. Now, a pressure regulator only deals with high pressure. Low pressure can also be a problem though. And, we just need to touch on that slightly. If we have lower pressure, so optimal is say 30. If we get down to 20 PSI, this is not going to perform the same way. So if you have a 15 nozzle, meaning it's going to shoot about 15 feet at 30 PSI, at 20 PSI, it may only shoot like 12 or 13 feet. Okay. And that's critical. In one of my last videos, we talk about spacing and everything. Wherever the pressure is and whatever this is going to spray, that needs to be your spacing. Okay. All heads need head-to-head coverage. So this head hits the next sprinkler down the row, and that one comes back and hits this one. That's what helps our distribution uniformity to make sure that we're really getting good coverage, okay, and no dry spots. Okay, so dry spots. Why? What's the problem with dry spots? Well, nobody likes dry spots in their yard, okay? But if you have a dry spot, chances are you probably have a wet spot. You may not even know it because it looks green, it looks great. You're like, hey, there's no problems here because it looks good. Well, what happens when you have a dry spot? You go over to the clock, you bump it up, and you put down more water. Well, that dry spot is now getting the water it needs. But what's up with this wet spot now? Now it went from wet to really wet, okay? And again, that is not good because we want to conserve as much water as possible. So what we're really trying to do, we're trying to put that water down as evenly as we possibly can, okay? And that's really going to help with our efficiencies. So the next one is a head with a check valve in it. Now, a check valve takes irrigation water and only allows it to flow in one direction. So it'll flow this way into the head, okay, but it won't flow back, okay? And so what happens is, say you have a hillside where you have two sprinkler heads, okay? And one sprinkler head's up high, and I'm going to pretend this is a sprinkler head, and this sprinkler head is down low, and say there's a 10-foot elevation difference, okay? A check valve at this lower head, that's 10 feet lower in elevation, is going to keep water from flowing out of it when you turn the irrigation system off. Because when the irrigation system's running, the pipes are full. When you turn it off, the pipes are full, and gravity is going to take that water and bring it down to this head, and it's going to leak. Okay? You won't even hardly notice it. But when you walk around, you go, God, why is it always wet here? Well, it's wet here because that pipe is draining down here, and a check valve will typically hold back about 8 feet of water. So if this is 10 feet and this is 8, it's going to drain a little bit, but it's not going to drain the whole 10 feet. Okay? One thing to remember, you don't need the check valve at the top of the hill. You need it at the bottom. So if you're trying to save some money, just put the check valves at the bottom of the hill. Okay? They're a couple bucks more for the bottom, but again, you're going to get this really swampy condition at the bottom, and most people don't want. Okay? So that's check valves. The next thing is reclaimed water. Now, if you look at some of these heads on top, you'll see them purple. Purple means it's reclaimed water from your municipality, okay? And that's water that's gone down your sink or gone down the bathroom, and they still clean it. It's still safe to use and everything, but it's not safe to drink. So that's why these are purple. Now, who would ever go and drink water over a sprinkler head? Well, hardly anybody, but you still got to be careful, and so that's what that purple's for, okay? Now, adjusting a spray head, okay? We got it in, we flushed it out, we put our nozzle on, okay? This happens to be a 12Q, okay? So that means 12 feet, and the Q is for quarter, okay? They also make a 12 third, a 12 half, a 3/4, and they make a 12 full. Okay, and every manufacturer does it a little bit differently. But then the distances for 12, there's different distances. So I've seen 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, 15, and 18. Okay, so it gives you a lot of flexibility to make sure that you're covering the area. We've all seen where people are irrigating the driveways, the sidewalks. We don't want to do that. We want to keep that to an absolute minimum, okay? So that's why there's all that flexibility, okay? Now, when you adjust the head, okay, what I do is I turn on the system, the head pops up, and then you can see here where the water comes out, but when it's spraying, it's really easy to see. But what if it's pointing in the wrong direction? Okay, and you need to turn the head. Well, you can either grab the head and turn it, but a lot of times that's not super easy. So what people mostly do is to take their hand, they grab onto this, and hear that? They are turning the head. So you can do that, and you can turn the head exactly the way you need it, okay? Now there's another adjustment on this head, and that's for distance of throw, okay? So you can see on the top in the center there, that is a place to put a screwdriver. And what you can do is you can turn that down. So you put this in, you can turn it down, turn it clockwise, and it's going to reduce the throw. So back to our example of a 15-foot spray nozzle. You can turn it down. You can make it 14.5. You can make it 14. You can make it 13. You can go all the way down to basically 25% decrease. Okay, so let's make the example a 10-footer. Okay, 25% decrease would take us down to 7.5 feet. Now, you can do it, and there's definitely circumstances where you want to do it, like you don't want to be spraying a driveway or a sidewalk. But at the same time, if you need to decrease a 10 all the way down to 7.5, you're probably better off just using an 8. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of different nozzles that give you a lot of flexibility, but in a pinch, you can turn that screw down up to 25%. Now, there's other heads that go in here. A rotary nozzle, okay? Rotary nozzles shoot the little streams of water. And I don't know if you've seen those before, but they have the little streams and they turn. And if I hold this up, you can see all these little cuts. These cuts are different shapes and sizes, okay? And what happens is you plunk this in, and these different lengths and different streams of water help with the uniformity. So these are widely considered to be some of the best heads for uniformity and conserving water. The thing is that these will go all the way up to like 30 feet and a little bit longer sometimes, depending on the manufacturer. I love using these for different circumstances, but there is a point on the smaller side, you get into smaller lawn areas or gardens, where you're going to have to go back to a regular nozzle. But these are good, and we can do another video on those another time. But getting back to these, we talked about the fixed nozzle, so the quarters, the halves. We talked about a full. The other thing you can do is you can get an adjustable nozzle. Now, these adjustable nozzles allow you to grab onto the side of the nozzle while it's running and turn them, and you can take it from 10 degrees to 15 degrees to 20 degrees, whatever you want to do. The only thing is, and keep this in mind, is the old variable arc nozzles, they had a tendency to not be very efficient, okay? So we used them sparingly, okay? Do not use them in your entire yard. If you see that, that's not a good thing, and I would recommend going back through and getting some fixed arcs in there and just using the variable arcs in the where you absolutely need to use them. Now, they have come out with some high efficiency nozzles, both on the variable arc side and on the fixed arc side. And I love using these, okay? The high efficiency nozzles, again, will help to get your distribution uniformity even better to help you conserve water. So keep that in mind too, okay? Now there's several different brands, Rainbird, Hunter, Toro, they're all great. They all do great products, recommend them all. But there's some other products. There's a difference in some of these products sometimes. Now, this is a commercial grade product. What you see at your big box stores or hardware stores, those are not commercial grade, okay? My recommendation is to use commercial whenever possible, okay? It's just a different head. It's a little stronger. It's going to last longer. The biggest thing that people talk about in technology-wise is really this thing right here. It's called the wiper seal. And what happens is when this comes up, okay, if you're getting water shooting out of this base, it means your wiper seal is no good anymore. A commercial grade sprinkler is going to last longer and give you better performance. If you like this video and would like to see more, please like and subscribe. Have a great day.
Hi. Hello. Oh, I'd like to introduce you to my new friend, the owl.